Hello, and welcome to our podcast, 1 Timothy, Verse by Verse, brought to you by Telios. This captivating podcast will detail each verse of 1 Timothy, providing guidance on church leadership, sound doctrine, and godly living. It lays a foundation for ordaining elders and provides practical advice for church governance. Thanks for joining us on this exciting biblical journey.
Hi, I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Telios. Welcome back to our verse-by-verse study on the book of 1 Timothy. We're in chapter 3, a great chapter talking about the qualities of elders and deacons that the church should consider when choosing those who are going to lead the church. Remember, elders and deacons are the two prescribed positions in the Bible for people who would lead into the church. Doesn't mean they can't be other positions that are created as needed. Elders typically, though, are the head of the church, and deacons serve under the elders as prescribed by the elders with some variable congregational input. I'll emphasize again, there's great flexibility in church government and structure in the Bible, so Christianity can fit into really any culture at any time with the goal of spreading the gospel and God's wonderful word. So from verses 1 to 7, it's the initial section of quality of an elder. It integrates nicely with Titus 1. And we are in verses 6 and 7 today from the King James. That the elder, and starting the verse, not a novice. Interesting word here, neophyton, meaning a new plant, like a plant in the ground, not a new plant. Lest being lifted up by pride, he fall into condemnation of the devil. So it's saying that a elder should not be a recent convert because he might be tempted by pride. And a elder should have enough longevity in the Christian walk and knowledge of the Bible to know they should be humble and not lording their position over people or thinking too highly of themselves. If they do that, they will fall into the same judgment, not really condemnation here. The word here is krino in the original Greek for judgment, that the devil did. So the big sin of the devil from Isaiah 14, Job 38, was pride. Verse 7, moreover, you must have a good report of them which are without, here meaning, I think, outside the church, lest you fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. So otherwise, a person who would be chosen for an elder needs to live a life even outside the church that is above reproach, but holy. If they're living a sinful life, perhaps after lustful gain of goods or women, then they will that person will fall into the reproach of people outside and the snare of the devil. Otherwise, their sin will capture them and cause them to not be able to assess or rule the church correctly, but lead them perhaps into further sin. So that person, you have to be careful that they just aren't acting well and good and nice inside the church, saying the right things and perhaps doing the right things, but their whole life is a picture of godly behavior and thinking. And that way they'd be able to rule the church without being snared by their sin, which would hurt their judgment, and also not make the church look bad, that they would have leadership that is not respected outside the church. Okay, all these are important verses, talking about behavior, the ability to teach, not being combative, being able to rule their house well, not being a new convert, having a good reputation from outside. Power-packed with wise advice to churches to apply out of faith as they deem fit. Next time we'll begin to talk about deacons, a short or a verse, important verse on the role of women in the church, and also, although controversial, of course, and then back to the elders. So hope this is useful. Hope you'll come back next time and we can learn even more together from God's truthful word. Goodbye for now.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast, 1 Timothy, Verse by Verse. We hope you found the teachings both interesting and informative. Join us next week for another exciting episode. To listen to all episodes, please visit our website at teliosresearch.com.